What if the monster you fear isn't hiding under your bed, but living quietly within your soul? What if the man who rescues a kitten from a drain today slams the door on a loved one tomorrow? What if the kindest face you know is merely a mask worn over years of suppressed anger, grief, and disappointment? Why do good people, genuinely good, caring, selfless people, suddenly transform into someone unrecognizable? Is evil born, or is it built? Is the path from kindness to cruelty really that long, or is it made of 1,000 tiny compromises we ignore? This isn't just a psychological riddle or a dramatic trope in books and films. This is real. It's history. It's society. It's personal. This is your friend who changed after a painful loss. Your teacher who became bitter with time. Your father who was once gentle, now distant. This is you at your worst moment when you scared yourself with what you were capable of. In this video, we embark on a deep philosophical journey to understand the transformation of the human soul. From light to dark. From grace to violence, from the loving to the loathsome. We're not here to judge. We're here to understand, to see the monster in others and in ourselves. Because the question isn't just why good people become monsters. The real question is, what stops you from becoming one? Let's begin. From childhood, we are taught to label people, heroes and villains, good and evil. But the truth is far more complicated. No one is born purely good or evil. What we call goodness is often a fragile, cultivated response to the environment around us. And that's what makes it so delicate. The person you admire for their kindness may have developed that quality as a defense mechanism. Perhaps they grew up in chaos and chose order. Maybe they saw cruelty and vowed never to be like that. But vows made in the light of pain often come with conditions. When life is stable, these good qualities are easy to maintain. But when stress enters the picture, when a person is deeply hurt, cornered, or stripped of their dignity, even the most kind-hearted person can shift. Not overnight, but gradually. Resentment builds. Disappointment lingers. And one day a line is crossed. A choice is made. Not because they want to be cruel, but because being good no longer seems to serve them. We must question the belief that someone's current goodness guarantees their future goodness. Goodness, like a garden, needs daily care. If neglected, weeds of bitterness and anger can overrun it. It's a comforting fantasy to believe in pure hearts. But to truly understand why good people become monsters, we must abandon the myth. We must accept that all people are capable of both kindness and cruelty. And that what we become depends on the choices we make when no one is watching. Betrayal does not always come in dramatic explosions. Sometimes it's quiet, 1,000 small cuts that slowly drain the spirit. And nothing turns a good person faster than the deep sting of betrayal. Imagine someone who gave their trust freely, someone who believed in love, in loyalty, in the goodness of others. And then that trust is broken, not once, but again and again. Each time, a little piece of faith dies. Each time, the heart grows colder. Not because they want to become heartless, but because it hurts too much to keep it open. This is how monsters are born, not in violence, but in silence. In the dark nights, when a kind person cries themselves to sleep, wondering why the world punishes those who give. When they start to believe that kindness is weakness. That love is a lie. That self-preservation means shutting the door to empathy. Some betrayals are personal, infidelity, lies, abandonment. Others are societal, watching corrupt leaders thrive while honest workers are crushed by the system. Betrayal tells the good person that the rules they followed were a joke, that the values they lived by were naive. And so they adapt. They build walls. They become distant, then indifferent. And sometimes when the pain becomes unbearable, they lash out, not because they are evil, but because pain unhealed will always demand a voice. And when goodness is betrayed enough times, that voice becomes a roar. The monster, then, is not the opposite of the good person. It is the good person, wounded beyond recognition. Power, in and of itself, is not inherently evil. but the way we wield it and the effects it has on our psyche can shape us in ways we never imagined. When good people are thrust into positions of power, whether in relationships, organizations, or governments, the risk of corruption is real. When a person gains power, they often experience a shift in perspective. They begin to see the world differently. What was once right and wrong becomes relative. What was once a guideline becomes an obstacle. They feel invincible, or at least untouchable. They begin to believe that their decisions are beyond reproach. They start to justify actions that would have once seemed unthinkable. This is where the monster is born, not through malice, but through convenience. Power makes us forget the vulnerability we once had. It makes us believe that our actions no longer matter to others, that we are above reproach. And so a good person, one who once would have cared for the suffering of others, can now turn a blind eye to cruelty, neglect, and harm. In positions of power, even the most virtuous can become monsters. And often, they never even see the transformation until it's too late. One of the most profound motivators for a good person to become a monster is the desire for revenge. Revenge is intoxicating. It offers the promise of justice, the satisfaction of seeing someone who wronged you suffer. And for a while it feels right. It feels like closure. It feels deserved. But revenge has a way of eating at the soul. What begins as a righteous desire to correct an injustice often morphs into an obsession. The line between right and wrong blurs. And slowly, the person who sought vengeance becomes the very thing they despised. In the process of punishing someone else, they lose themselves. The monster doesn't appear all at once. At first, revenge feels like a form of healing. But with each act of vengeance, the person moves further away from their former self. Their once noble pursuit turns into a spiral of hatred, bitterness, and anger. In the pursuit of revenge, good people often sacrifice their souls. What begins as justice ends in corruption. And the good person, now a monster, is left with nothing but ashes. Society can either nurture or destroy a person's moral compass. We often look at the individual as the sole culprit in these transformations, but society plays a huge role. When a society normalizes selfishness, greed, and power, it provides the environment for monsters to thrive. A good person exposed to a society that values success at any cost begins to question their own values. They see that the cruel, ruthless people around them are rewarded, while the kind and humble are overlooked or trampled on. Slowly, the good person begins to adapt to this new world. They start to see kindness as naive, empathy as weakness, and selflessness as foolishness. This is the power of social pressure, the ability to warp our values and corrupt our intentions. Society has a way of making monsters out of good people, not through direct malice, but through subtle encouragements that shift a person's focus from compassion to self-interest. One of the most tragic reasons why good people become monsters is the loss of identity. In a world that constantly demands more success, more wealth, more recognition, it's easy to lose sight of who we truly are. A person who was once kind and caring may start to question their identity when their values no longer align with their circumstances. They may lose sight of their original purpose, their true self, and begin to embrace roles that they were never meant to play. They may feel pressured to conform, to meet the expectations of others, or to survive in a world that no longer has room for their kindness. As the person becomes more disconnected from their true self, they may resort to behaviors they once condemned. They may justify cruelty, manipulation, or dishonesty as a means of survival. And slowly, the good person becomes unrecognizable, a shadow of the person they once were. So, can good people really become monsters? Yes, they can. But the beauty of the human spirit lies in its ability to return to goodness. The key is understanding the forces that push us toward darkness and confronting them. To prevent ourselves from becoming monsters, we must stay true to our values. We must be aware of the power we wield and the effects it has on our psyche. We must heal from the betrayals that threaten to break our spirit, and we must resist the temptations of revenge and self-interest that can corrode our hearts. The road to redemption is long, but it is not impossible. We can regain our humanity, no matter how far we've fallen. It begins with a single step, the decision to remember who we are and who we strive to be.